The act of listening itself was the one true voice. And it matters not who speaks, it only matters how we hear. How we hear the truth. Late in the day, the sun long, columns of light warm in their purples and red through the wood, and a hunter is returning to his hut. The twisted knot of the forest roots underfoot, a hunger in the hunter's belly, stomach stuck to spine, a hunger underneath the fingernails. The hunter has not caught anything in days. Coming to the threshold of the wood, to the meadow where his hut lies, the hunter approaching the threshold. A hunger thick, electric in the blood. You know this type of hunger speaks from behind the eyes. And reaching the threshold of the open light in the meadow, the hunter stops. There is a column of smoke coming from the hunter's hut, blue curling in air. But now you see the hunter, he lives alone. There should be no one in his hut. Slowly, with soft feet along the path, the hunter approaches the door to his hut, round, cracked open. Slowly, the hunter pushes the door open into the hut, gently lit, the fragrance of soup. Someone has been in the hut, but the hut is empty. Someone has taken the threadbare tunic of the hunter and sewn it up. There is warm soup over the fire bubbling. In some ways, the hunter has never felt this cared for, hungry. He gently, threat subsiding, approaches the pot of soup, fills his bowl, begins to eat vigorously. The second day, it's the same story. Coming home, someone has prepared food. Someone has been in the hut. Third day, fourth day, the same. On the fifth day, the hunter does what you probably would have done on the second day. He comes home early. Gently, the sideways steps again, just to be certain. The hunter appears, opening the door, and sees someone standing in front of the cook pot, back turned to him, and as the hunter knows in his hunter's eyes, this is part woman and part fox. Long river of twisting, curling, bubbling red hair down her back. Softest touch pepper grinder cracking into a pot. She is singing in a language, in a way, a song it is difficult for many to speak about in these days. She gently stops cracking the pepper and knows, like you know often, that she's being watched. Gently, she turns to face the hunter. There's a moment of pause, and she says, "I will be the woman of this hut." The hunter, in gurgling, stuttered heartbeats, nods, yes. But she says, "You know, there's one thing. As a fox Woman, there's one thing, the source of my power. I have my fox pelt, and I must hang it in the hut, connecting nose of the heavens to tail of earth, that same river of hair, the fur, the moving flame of her fox pelt must hang in the hut, and the hunter agrees. Now, as some of you may know, the fox, not just swift in its strides, but is strong in its scent. There is a deep odor to the fox. So the pelt, it smells. And yet, that first night, the odor is imperceptible. It is a subtle perfume. Around the table, the hunter and the foxwoman sit. You know the scene. There's a small candle in an old wine bottle. There is that steaming pot of soup between them. It turns out the hunter, he knows a couple stories. And the foxwoman, she knows songs. And the night is turning like this. Their eyes meeting like seeds in the beaks of 100 starlings moving through the dying day's light. It is the curling of the mountain stream. It is the peacefulness in the clear pool. It is the swan-feathered cloak of love that is wrapping around them. And it goes like this. First moon, second moon, third moon. But as the moons progress, growing and swelling and shrinking in their cycles, the odor of that fox pelt is starting to get into the hut. It's in the corners of the rafters. It's in the tunic of the hunter. It's in his boots. He can begin to smell it. So at night, at dinner, the hunter, feeding himself from the soup, says, you know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the pelt. It's a wonderful pelt. It's just, does it have to live inside the hut? Does it have to hang here? Maybe we put it outside the pelt outside the hut. And it's difficult to describe the odor of the fox pelt. Some say it is that smell between instinct and imagination. It is somewhere in the keenness of an eye, in the presence of a heartbeat, in the smooth closeness of a breath. It is that smell between instinct and imagination. The foxwoman hears the hunter's request and looks at the hunter, turns her head askew and says nothing. The night continues. Fourth moon, fifth moon, sixth, seventh moon coming now. That odor is in the nostrils of the hunter. It is in his quiver, in the wood. It is in the rafters. It is in the soup bowl. This odor starts to get into his brain. This wild, feral, hungry, whiskered scent is climbing up his spine in moments he cannot think. And so that night, there is a silence over the dinner table. There is still a care in the hut. There is feeding. But this day the hunter returned with 2 rabbits for the pot. There is quiet, and he says to the foxwoman, I've told you once. Take the pelt and get it out of this hut. And the next day, upon waking, the pelt was gone. The foxwoman was gone, and the scent was gone. And they say truly, that the hunter stands in the doorway of his hut every night, looking out to that dying light and the twisted knot of the forest, lonely in his whole body. For the scent of the fox